Right, let's get going. I won't normally show this, but once in a while let's do it. We're going to start the machine because of course we stopped it last time. Well, that was a little bit annoying. I waited until I had SSH'd into here. Before that I had pressed pause. I then recorded the whole session, which took me about half an hour, and I looked to see what I had done, and it seemed to still be paused right over here. So here we go. Let's do the whole thing all over again. I'm quickly gonna set the permissions for Dropbox. Sudo chmod recursively 777 Dropbox. I'm actually going to make sure that the Dropbox background daemon is running. Sudo python 3 dropbox.py status. It isn't running, so I'm going to start it. It is started. What else do I need? Let's have a look at what's happening with my container. Sudo, there isn't one, but hopefully there is a stopped one. There is a stopped one, mlenv, so let's start it. Sudo docker start mlenv. Good, I'm sure that's going to work. We're done. Let's move into the container and get going again. 888-7. Amy's housing. You'll have pcode. I've got pcode underscore lect. One Python notebook. We are going to move through this as quickly as we can. Import any packages. Okay, we need pandas. We need numpy. I like having OS so I can check my working directory. We are going to need the packages for dealing with regular expressions, which is re, and we are going to need pickle. Print the version of numpy and pandas. I think it's just useful to know which versions you're on. They're probably quite old versions because I don't think this container has been updated in the past year. If convenient for you, define the input and p data directories, that should say. Try and correct that before you see it. Well, it is convenient, otherwise I would not have asked you to do it. Let's just print the current working directory. Get current working directory. As we expect, we're in our container. That's the work directory within our container. And this is what we've mapped to it. Input with a small I to be consistent with the Kaggle workspace in case anybody is using that. dirp data. That's going to be useful later on. Now, we've got a dictionary of data types. That is because I wanted to be absolutely sure that we were using on data which is stored in exactly the same way. It might cause problems otherwise. If you were storing something as an integer by mistake when it should be a float. This is a year. It probably could be stored as an integer actually, but I've stored it as a float. Never mind, we're going to leave it exactly as it is. Let's just have a look at this dictionary for our second to remind ourselves of key value pairs. So first of all, is this a dictionary? Type of dtypes? Yes, it's a dict. A dict consists of key value pairs. So sale price, for example, is the key. And if we ask the dictionary what is its value, we get numpy float 64. We're going to read in the data now. Ed read CSV. If you're not sure how to use the function, just use the help on it. You can see the first thing we need is the file path. Well, dir, that should do the trick. Yeah, it reads it in. It's a bit messy. There's no separator because the standard separator is a comma, and here the separator is a space. While we're at it, let's define the dtypes. You can see down here in the help that the dtypes, the data types, can be defined as a dictionary in the way that we've done it. So dtype equals Amy's data types. And finally, I'm not sure why I've done this. It might be that I looked at the data previously and I saw some values for NA stored with the string NA. I asked you to call it df all. Df stands for data frame, and also to have a look at the first few rows, df all.head. Next, we would like to change the column names. Df all.columns, for example, ms subclass. I just don't like the way that looks, so we are going to change it. This is an index, incidentally. It's a bit difficult to work with an index, so let's work with the values of the index. Columns is now an array. That's just a little bit easier to work with. How are we going to deal with this? Let's create a function. We'll start with a test value. This is a test. And now we'll create a function called convert col name. The first thing we want to do to any column name which is passed to this function to replace the period with an underscore using re.sub. So re.sub. Here's a period. Here's an underscore. So we replace period with underscore in the column name. Now that actually won't work because period is a special character in regular expressions. So you need a backslash to escape it. So it knows you just want it to be a period. And the second thing we're going to do is change it to lower. Finally, let's return it. Col name. Does this function work? Sorry if I'm sounding a bit bored. It's just that I've done all this 10 minutes ago. This is a test. Good, the function works. Now, how are we going to apply the test to every value in columns? Well, a stupid way to do it would be something like this. So we're going to go through each of the values in columns, and we're going to say that columns index equals convert column name, and that should do it. So if we print columns, it doesn't work. A new meh, right. Good, that works. You can see MS subclass just looks, to me at least, a little bit nicer. But there are much easier ways of doing something like this without actually going through every single value. One of them is map. If you look up map, make an iterator. So it's going to make an iterator that computes the function using arguments from each of the iterables. That sounds a bit painful, but let's just do it. Sometimes doing things is easier than talking about it. So we need a function, convert, and we're going to apply that function to every value in columns. Now, that is really it. I don't need this anymore. If I print that, the thing is, this is an iterator. It returns its values one at a time when they're needed. We want to force it to return all of the values at once. So we force it into a list, and there you have it. And df all columns. Now, just set it equal to our revised columns and look at the head, df all head. That's a little bit nicer. You do need to do this because otherwise code that we work on together later on, which might assume that a column name has a particular spelling with lowercase and underscore, isn't going to work for you. If you don't know what an iterator is or an iterable is, then, well, you probably should. You could look it up. I do have a little bit of material explaining some basic Python concepts, and if there's a demand, just post that question on Moodle and then I can maybe do a video for you going through some basic Python concepts. The final thing we need to do is to store the data using Pickle. If you've not come across Pickle before, please follow the link and try and understand a little bit of that. Create the file name for where we are storing the data, dir, which I'm going to store the data in our pdata directory. So we've got the file name, and now we're going to open the file as write binary, and then finally pickle.dump our dictionary. So we're going to dump our dictionary to this open file, and it will be automatically closed when we're done. And I might as well delete the variable name because I don't like stuff hanging around. I wonder if that synced okay to my Dropbox. I'm just going to have a quick look. I'm not sure that it did because that's 646. So what I am going to do is to try the permissions again. And for the sake of it, just for the sake of it, I'm going to try stopping and starting the Dropbox. And start. That's good. It has synced. I'm not sure if it's just it wasn't syncing to my local machine, but it's certainly synced to the cloud as of 2 minutes ago, so I'm not sure that I even needed to start and stop the Dropbox. That's it for this session.